How's my sound coming in?
Your sound's coming in pretty good, man.
Loud and clear?
Loud and clear, my friend.
Well. Here we are. The first show of November. And welcome to the ConversionAMP Show. I'm your host, the Marksman, Dean Iadisi. And I'm here with my co-host, the one and only, the king of the crown, the mission of the impossible, Mr. Rick Vega.
Hey, how's everyone doing today, man?
Everyone is doing well. How are you?
Can't complain. I had some rain over the weekend. My grass is looking nice. Happy to be here.
Me too. Just a little bit, like 12 inches are in. How you been?
Can't complain, man. Had good times with the kids over the weekend. Went a little bit of fishing. I mean, we are in Florida, so there's always the fishing, right?
It's a little chilly outside, 50-something degrees over the weekend.
Yeah.
Exciting.
I grew up north, so 50 is like, it feels good to me.
Nice. I grew up north too, but I've been down here 30 plus years. So the blood is as thin as water. So glad you had a good weekend. I'm excited about today's show. We got a good one. If you've been following the show or listening into the past episodes, you will know that we have been going real deep on ConversionAMP. And we have introduced you to a lot of things that this awesome, powerful tool can do for your business. Lo and behold, it can allow you to not miss those missed calls, let's call them, or be the first one to jump on a lead from a lead website like Home Advisor, or stay in touch with your client base by doing email newsletters, special emails, and even waking up your past clients through a, what do we call it?
Database reactivation.
Database reactivation. And that is when you have a lot of clients that have been stagnant for a while and you want to kind of wake them up a little. So, you have a large database of your clients in ConversionAMP, and you kind of send them a little special or a little something to get their ears popping and to remember you and get that telephone ringing again. And if you're in plumbing and HVAC, it could be an emergency that now you're top of mind. It could be an installation for maybe a new piece of equipment. If you're an electrician, it's a great way to reintroduce yourself to your clients for those honeydew projects that the honey can't do, but you can. So that's always a good way to do it. And we venture into keeping you inside of ConversionAMP. And we think that's a good idea because the last thing you want to do is be using multiple tools. And one of the things we are going to discuss today is a very important aspect of internet marketing, and that's called call tracking. And so what's great about call tracking, and everyone knows what it is, it was when it first came out, it was something uber exciting. Now it's kind of something we almost take for granted. It's second nature. But if we think back to marketing and advertising of yesteryear, otherwise known as 20 years ago, before the internet, maybe a little longer at this point, when our only source of, or our major source of capturing clients was through the yellow pages. I saw one of those things the other day. Couldn't believe it still existed. It's about 1/3 the size, but there was, it was hard to track your advertising back in the day. And so with internet marketing, there's so many awesome ways that you can see what's happening, whether it's through analytics or success factors on where you're ranking in the search engines, how your PPC is doing, what your ad spend is per click, and of course, call tracking. What's cool about call tracking is you can really drill down to figure out how many calls you received on a monthly basis. Because if you're old enough, you'll know that back in the day, you would get on the phone and you more than likely the forward moving companies would be like, how did you hear about us? And that's about as effective as the customer can remember where they saw you. And so if you're a business that does a lot of advertising in different spaces, they may have seen you at one place and remembered you there and didn't actually come from where they actually saw you. So it wasn't as effective as it is today. With call tracking, what's cool is not only do you know where your customers are coming from and you can count the calls and the number that you're getting on a monthly, weekly, or daily basis, but you can also use it as a training opportunity for the people who answer your phones. And I've heard some horror. It's past Halloween. I forgot how to say that word. Horror stories, or not really stories because I heard them firsthand on how some CSRs may have answered the phone. Funny, I always have a horror story myself. I called a company last week, and the person that answered the phone was, hello, so-and-so, company name. I don't want to mention it online. And it was just like, it hurt to listen to the lady's voice. It's like, so not friendly. So, it's like, at the very least, tell your CSRs to answer the phone with a smile on their face, and it would make such a much more pleasant situation for the customer. So it's like, that first call, and already it didn't feel right. And I knew the rest of the call was kind of going to go that way. So in the end, call tracking is not only a way to measure our success of how many calls we're getting for the advertising dollars we're spending, it's also a great opportunity to use it as a training tool to create your CSRs to sell, or actually just answer the phone better, be more friendly, and use it to figure out, how are they doing? Not a place to punish them and don't make them afraid of it, but there's an old saying. It goes, that with what gets watched gets, that with what gets measured gets, I don't remember the saying. Can't fill in the blank for me, Rick?
No, that's the first one I've heard of that. But I guess I can follow your train of thought. Though that actually gets watched gets improved. What doesn't get watched doesn't get proved. More or less.
Exactly. So it's not bad to let the CSRs know that they're being recorded, and obviously they knew they are. So I've personally listened to some calls myself for clients that we have, and I've never personally sold a plumbing service or an HVAC unit, but many of these calls where I'm just like wanting to pull my teeth out because I know I could have booked that service call by just a couple simple answered questions, and that's where another call tracking thing can help them out quite a bit. So yeah, we've seen it over the years. We have an actual team in place that listens to every phone call and grades it. Missed calls, unanswered calls, marketing calls, or calls that were booked. So that's a great service that we provide. Now, how does call tracking work with ConversionAMP, and why are we talking about that so much today? And the reason being is because right now we send you reports on analytics, we send you reports on call tracking, we send you reports on what you're ranking, and all this good stuff, right? But what if you could go to one central location where you're already doing your email marketing, where you're already setting up your funnels to touch points of your client, where you're already going to retrieve your leads? What if there was a place like that? Wow, lo and behold, you have guessed it. You have entered the camp zone, ConversionAMP. With ConversionAMP, we can have your call tracking results show up right in one spot with a lot of detail. And our friend, Mr. Rick Vega, is going to show us a demonstration of what this looks like. And when you see the data, it's really exciting. At least it excites me.
Yeah. maybe not all of us are as tech savvy as me and you, Dean, where we like the data, but at the end of the day, data drives any business decision, and any business owner that tells you otherwise might not be in business for too much longer, right? When it does come to call tracking, essentially what that is basically figuring out what sources of your marketing is bringing in the leads. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be dishing out that thousands or tens of thousands with some of our clients in regards to a negative lead source that's not bringing in revenue. So at the end of the day, knowing exactly what source is bringing in what traffic and how much revenue you're getting from that traffic is essentially what call tracking is all about. As what we do for today is we actually have call rail for most of our clients that do get the call tracking. What we're trying to do is make it a lot more simpler. Case in point, what Dean said, one report is from Google Analytics, the other is from the call rail, another is from the call auditing, and there's just all these different places to log in, follow up, and maintain. What if it's all in one place? And that's what we set out to do with ConversionAMP. Now, we want to first and foremost make sure that all the data is coming from ConversionAMP. So we want to make sure it's simple and easy, but you're not losing out the important information that you're getting from these other sources, right? So if we come into our dashboard here and we come down to our reporting, we have all of these attributions up here. The one we're going to be focusing on today is the call reporting. With this particular account, there's not too much going on here because again, this is a dummy account, but I do want to show you exactly what it is giving you as far as data goes. So we can see the number of answered calls versus missed calls. We can see the top sources. So if we're getting sources, let's say from Facebook, from Google, let's say from this paid campaign or that campaign, Home Advisor, all of these different sources can be listed here. In addition to that, we can see the number of calls that are happening on a week by week basis. We can see the total percentage that was answered versus the previous month, what was missed, how many of them are first time callers. That lets us know how much new business is coming in versus repeat business, which is still good. But again, we're always looking for that new customer drive. In addition to how the average call duration is. Now, as you can see, this is a test information that's here. So what you can see is that it was tested on the 22nd. We can actually see the first name of the person, where it actually came from. We can see the source, the phone number, was it answered, and the call, the actual keyword data. Now the keyword data has a lot to do with when you're actually doing paid sources. With the paid sources, you need to know exactly what keyword is driving the most traffic and again, bringing the right revenue. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be bidding 40, 50, 60, sometimes $100 on a dead keyword, right? Now, this is all good, but all you see is just straight zeros here. So I wanted to take it a step further and go into some client accounts and actually pull some live data for you guys. So what I did was take a few screenshots here. This is for the month of October. These guys had a total of 138 answered calls and only missed 5, which is great information. As you can see here, they actually had 26 less calls than the month before. What they can see is they missed a lot less, but then they also have a down 12 less first-time callers. Again, this is all great data to know that, hey, last month we did a little bit better, but this month we're not that far off. In addition to that, what you can see is exactly all of the sources. So as you can see, they have Google My Business coming through here. They have Home Advisor, and they also have pay-per-click or Google AdWords coming through here. Of course, most of the data is taken out for proprietary purposes, but you can see how many of them were answered, how many of them were first calls. And then we can also see the keywords coming through here. And again, this is an 8-minute call. This is a 1-minute call, another 1-minute call. And we can see that all of these are coming from mobile. So we can see just based off of the screenshot, they are getting a lot of traffic through here. And most of the sources are coming through as mobile. So that means as from a marketer standpoint, we need to target more mobile, right? So that's just a few of the key pieces that it comes through. Now let's take it a step further. One of the next things that it does do with the call tracking, it allows you to see the actual calls via each agent. So if you have multiple CSRs inside of the system, it'll actually show you a breakdown report of each rep that you have using the system, somewhat like this. So we can see a total of leads and opportunities come in, how many are opened, how many have won, and how many have we lost. In addition to that, it'll show you the conversations, how many have been followed up with, how many have been booked, and how many have been marked as uninterested, the total number of text messages sent. And then we can also see here the ranking of the agents that were marked in and how many total opportunities they have assigned to themselves. And 306 versus 85 is a whole lot more on work that particular agent is doing. And again, that allows you to see who's working, who's not working, and what areas are you lacking when it comes to your CSRs. One of the next steps that we can come over and take a look at is the call breakdown. So we can actually see how many of them were actually automated calls via any automation. We can see how many are actual manual calls dependent on the agents, how many of them are set in a dialer that's within ConversionAMP, and how many of them are just inbound calls. In addition to that, we can see the efficiency. We can see the total sales made was over $42,000, which is a good month for anyone, right? One of the last things I want to showcase here is that each lead has its own activity. So we want to be able to tell exactly what page they came in, whether they're organic traffic, whether they're paid traffic, and exactly what steps they took. Because if we see a pattern of the same leads taking the same sort of steps, we know where we need to focus our impact on. And again, if we see certain leads dropping off at, let's say, certain pages or certain steps within our marketing funnels, we can then go to those particular spots and fix whatever needs to be fixed to increase our overall conversions. And again, make more money, because at the end of the day, that's what all this is about. And what we have here is for each contact, you can see again, they visited a page, when they visited a page, and you can have an actual distinguishing of whether it's organic, or in this case, if it's paid and what campaign is actually from. So all of this is available in your dashboard in one single place versus, again, you having a check call rail for certain things, going to analytics for another thing, and then actually checking ServiceTitan or any dispatching software for how much revenue is tracked. That's 3 different softwares you have to log in, and that's tedious versus logging in into one place and managing it all right there for you. Now, one of the last things I took here is a little late, is this full breakdown of exactly the conversion report that we have in here as well. So as you can see, for the month of October, this particular client had a total revenue of $15,000 that was just pushed into ConversionAMP. In addition to that, they closed 21, and they had a total of 36 contracts. Now they had a total session, meaning a total number of visitors coming into ConversionAMP via just calls as 1,700. As you can see the different calls, you can see the influx at the end of the month, and you can actually see how many contacts were created, how many total sessions were taken, and then you can also see the different the different sources, dependent on the source. So as you can see right here, paid traffic did have a huge spike, which that tells us during this time, something did happen good with the PPC, and that's where we need to keep focusing on. And again, it's just a full breakdown for you, so you can see live time. And again, this is all right within your dashboard. You don't need to leave, you don't need to go anywhere. And that's what we try to do to make it nice, simple, and easy for you guys when it does come to ConversionAMP. Now, the whole point of all of this is just to sit down and, again, make it more easier, more convenient for you to manage and all this. Because again, if instead of you having to get 4 or 5 different reports, log into 4 or 5 different things in order to sit down and speak with your strategic partner, you and your strategic partner can both go into this one system, be able to view everything, and you have all of that transparency right in your dashboard, month in and month out, and you can check it anytime that you want. And that's overall what we're shooting for, right, Dean?
Very, very much. Yep, that's cool. Very cool. It's
Yep.
pretty self-explanatory too, which is nice, because sometimes when you look at analytic reports, especially, I mean, if you ever looked at a Google Analytics report, it's like, oh my God, talk about overkill. This just really focuses on the most important aspects of, what's happening. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about: telephone calls.
Yep. And then even a layer deeper, when it comes to Google and Google Analytics, I can tell you how many times this software has updated, the interface is updated, this is moved, that's moved. And then it seems like every few months you have to go and relearn the whole thing. With ConversionAMP, it's very nice, it's very simple. There's very minimal updates, and the data is basically always the same. It's always the same interface. We keep it nice and simple because at the end of the day, we need answers. We need answers fast. And we want to make sure that it's simple and easy for you to manage your business in one place, not 15, right?
Exactly. Perfect. Love it. Super excited. We have more and more clients using ConversionAMP successfully every single month, and we are uber excited about going into 2022 with really drilling down and understanding everything. One thing I forgot to mention, Rick, is I forgot to apologize about our last show. We had a guest on the show, and kind of brought the ratings down to almost 0. So we just want to apologize. No, I'm just kidding. Jimmy's on the line listening, so I'm sure he's laughing. I always like to razz him. But in the end, yeah, it's really important to stay on top of your telephone calls and figure out what's going on there. It really paints a picture of, you know, if things are slow, there's a reason, right? And sometimes it's not always, let me rephrase this, because I hear it from time to time, you know, oh, it's a little slow this week, you know, can you flip the switch? Well, obviously there's not a switch. The switch is baked into the system, right? Things that we do in the past get paid for today. But sometimes that people are just not, toilets are not clogged, air conditions are not broken, heaters are not broken, and lights are not going out. Sometimes for the customers, it's like the sun and the moon have aligned and all systems are working and the call volume goes down. Sometimes it has to do with calls, you know. If you look, you'll see that sometimes calls are going unanswered, or why is that happening? It's a great, if there's one thing, what I like to tell all customers, if there's one thing that you're looking at, it's look at the call volume, right? Don't worry about the traffic to the site. Don't worry about the number of links coming to the site. That's all irrelevant. That all builds in time. The most important key metric is how many telephones are coming in, telephone calls are coming in, right? Last week we had 70 calls. This week the phone's not ringing. I find that hard to believe. Let's log into the system and take a look. Oh, look at that. There were already on Tuesday, there were 12 unanswered calls this week. Why is that? And, or there was a lot of calls taken, but maybe it's a training opportunity to talk to your CSRs. And, you know, if you would have said this, or you would have did this, you could have booked this call. So there's it's the entire system that paints the picture of success in the end, at the end, right? So if you're receiving religiously 70 calls a week, and all of a sudden this week you feel like you have none, you just really need to, before calling up and thinking the world's coming to an end, log into your call tracking system and take a look and listen to the calls. That's why we record them for you. We listen to them, yes, and your account manager will advise you on things. But if you take the time to listen to a couple calls and see how it's going, you're the owner of the business, right? You know your people, you know your systems. And sometimes you can tweak a little thing, a little message that the CSR might be saying, and it can convert a whole hell of a lot more calls. So there's different aspects to everything. And again, if there's one thing that you should keep a pulse on or an eye on yourself as the owner of a plumbing, HVAC, and electrical company, it's your call tracking.
Yeah, no, and even to take it a step further, there are a lot of things where training opportunity is always needed. At the end of the day, we're human beings, we learn every single day. And the opportunity to see that, just as you mentioned, 1 week we killed it, we had 70 calls, we converted a good, let's say 30-40% of those calls. We made a good week that week. Now the following week we had the same 70 calls, we're only converting 15%, if that. There's something that's amiss there. And it could be one little thing that a new CSR might be saying, or something that is not being said enough, or the right question is not being asked, or the little things that can increase overall conversions. And it doesn't matter how many leads we generate, how many phone calls we get ringing. If we can't sit them and convert them, at the end of the day, you're not, business is not making money. And for you to sit there and have the ability to not only see where is it coming in from, what device is coming in from, but be able to sit there and hear how your CSRs are speaking, see how the clients are reaching out, see what they're seeing, see what they're asking. That allows you to then create other things like an FAQ for all your CSRs. Have a good 5-6 questions where these are the 5-6 questions in 10 years of business they always ask, they always see. And if we can tackle these 5 questions, we're able to book them, and that increases conversions as well. In addition to that, case in point for the missed calls, there are some businesses that are not picking up the phone enough. That is a problem, but then there are also that they do get overwhelmed. And at the end of the day, a missed call is a missed opportunity, and that's revenue lost. So even to add that a little further, with this tracking, we can actually also, dependent on the calls that are coming into calls are coming into ConversionAMP, we can set up automation for everything. So there's a feature that we've mentioned a few weeks back called the missed call text back. So what that feature is basically any number that is called within ConversionAMP that's not picked up, we send an automation. Basically, they get a text message or an email as well saying, "Hey, sorry we missed your call, but your business is important. How can we help?" And that initiates a text message conversation, and that leads to two-way. And that gets them back on the phone and stops them from going to a competitor. So yeah, you weren't able to pick up the phone call in the first step, but following up with the text message can increase conversions and it decrease lost opportunity. And that's something that
Yeah.
can be done all within ConversionAMP as well.
Yep. And everybody thinks that their CSRs are the best in the industry, um, until they take the time to listen, right? Because anyone can use improvement. You
Mhm.
know what your business is, you know what your services are. You've probably started out selling your own services. And sometimes it's just a way to train them the way they word things. I'll give you an example of a client we have, won't mention client name, but they're in an area um, where their home base is this city A, right? And city B is right next door to them, literally 4 miles down the road. And they have an answering service that answered the phone. And this client lived in city B and asked for service in city B, but the call service said, "Oh, sorry, we don't service that city. We only service city A." So he wouldn't have known that if he didn't have the call recording in place. He was able to listen to it and say, "Oh my God, I lost an opportunity." And he ended up losing, an install for an AC system, which is, $4,000 or $5,000, just over a training opportunity that he fixed right away. So it's so important to listen to those calls. Yes, we have a team in place that listens to them and marks them, and some of the pretty obvious stuff we hit. But again, you as the business owner and have the tools in place that we've provided for you to be able to listen to this. Take some time, maybe an hour a week, just to go through a few calls and just to see how they go. I like to listen to the short ones. When I see that they're like a minute or less, do a couple of those, and a couple of the 3-4 minutes, the 8-minute ones, and see, if you have one CSR who's continually doing 8-minute calls and booking them, and you have another CSR that's doing a few 1 minutes and a few 3 minutes, and you're always saying, "Oh, they didn't want to book." They're always saying they didn't want to book the service. They're calling another company. There's a reason for that, right? This CSR is selling the appointment. That's the CSO's job, right? Not to sell the job, to sell the appointment. And this one's selling the appointment and this one's not. With call recording in place, it's a great opportunity, not to thrash them, but to teach them. It's cool
Yeah, and
stuff.
yeah, and again, to increase progression, because at the end of the day, if you're able to show a CSR exactly what they're doing, how they're saying it, we can get you the leads and we can get you the phone ringing all day. That's our job. That's what we thrive at, and that's what we strive for. But at the end of the day, we can't sell your business. No one is a better salesman of your business than you. So taking the time to sit there and listen to the recording, sit there and see why your business is not thriving as you feel it should be, making those opportunities, taking those training opportunities, and increasing the overall skill of your CSRs is only going to help your business. And at the end of the day, that shows leadership, and that's going to grow your team to where you wanted to be at, right?
Yeah. Another thing you could think about is I don't like, whenever I look at internet marketing, I try not to look at it in a daily or even a weekly thing, right? Because if business was good last week and business is a little slower this week, that's okay. That's normalcy, right? You
Mhm.
should be looking at your traffic and your business and your volume over the course of a quarter, right? And
Mhm.
test and measure year over year. That's the best way to do it. That's when you see the true results. Week to week is, I mean, yeah, it's a little slower this week, and I don't, there's reasons, right? You have to look at the very minimum 30 days. Look at the 30 days once it's over. Look at all your calls and see what happened. What I see a lot is clients calling in and shutting off their PPC, right? Shut PPC off. We have too many calls, and then next week they don't have enough calls. Well, see, that's a problem, because if you're shutting down that PPC because you have too many calls, well, guess what? You just shut down your pipeline. All right. And that's your lifeline. That's the business coming in. If that, and when I look at client accounts over the course of time, I see trends, and it happens to the same customers over and over. They're turning on and shutting off their PPC campaigns, right? Or their Facebook ads, because they have too much call volume. Well, these are opportunities to go back, look at the calls. Are these calls being booked? Yes, no. Are they lost sales? Yes, no. Should we hire on a new technician? I know that's easier said than done, right? It's hard to find good technicians, but if you see this trend happening over and over again, every single month, you're shutting off your PPC ads and then you're turning them back on. There's a lot of things happening that they're not always so good, right? It's always best to keep your PPC campaigns running without pausing them, because you don't want to readjust things. And sometimes the optimization goes in a different direction and now your cost per click is higher. If you have your campaign running all the time, but you're getting so many calls that you can't handle them, it is definitely time to hire someone, right? Get someone in place. And like I said, yes, that's easier said than done in this industry. I know there's a massive shortage in the plumbing and HVAC space for hiring quality technicians. But if you see this trend happening, you should always have one person, yourself or an HR person, always hiring. Not hire when needed, always hiring. So your goal is to keep those. Again, we don't make a dime extra whether you turn it off or turn it on. We don't get paid per click. You pay us our clients pay us a set fee, and then we manage their campaigns. When they shut them off, they don't pay the money to Google, right? But they also don't get that lead. So that lead went somewhere else. It didn't go away. It's not going to wait till next week, right? When you're able to handle the call, it's going to your competitor and you're growing their business as well, right? So the goal is to try to keep those ads running all the time and keep that call volume consistent. And so that's when, you can look back, listen to your calls, listen to your CSRs. What kind of calls are they booking? Are they booking calls that, they're $39 faucet jobs? It's a training opportunity to get them in the push for other services. But the main thing is, it's a great opportunity to hire, use it as a tool for hiring. Stop shutting off those PPC campaigns because you're losing business there. Yeah, you can't handle them, but you can't handle them for a reason, because you're doing a good job. You're getting a lot of calls. Your marketing's working. And seeing the call volume and measuring it over time is a valuable thing. It's also a great tool for measuring if you're using, if you're a smaller company, maybe a 1 or 2 man shop, and you don't have someone that answers your calls. That's a tough one, because you're hiring an answering service, and answering services are never good. I don't care how good they say they are. I haven't really ever heard one that's any good. Case in point, that example I gave before about didn't service this city 4 miles away. So again, it's a training opportunity.
Yeah, no, and even drive that point even further. I mean, when us as marketers, we're looking at this data to see when is it a good time to make this optimization, to do the things that keep the call volume going, but again, make it a reasonable cost per click. That goes back to the business as well. It allows you to see, okay, do we need to hire this extra person? Do we need a technician, or do we need a CSR? Do we need to spend more time during the phone for this and this? Maybe we need to change our lunch hour because we're missing so many calls from 12 to 1. Maybe we need to do maybe a 1 to 2 lunch and increase the overall calls here. It allows you to make business decisions not based off of what you think, not based off of what we think, but based off of the numbers that show. At the end of the day, I have a famous saying: men lie, women lie, but numbers never lie. And if we're able to get more data from the PPC campaigns without having them turn off on a consistent basis, that allows us to, again, make sure get a more optimized approach when it comes to increasing call value, making sure that you have that consistency of the 70 calls per week, but also make sure that we increase the conversions and keep the conversions consistent. That's all drives back to the same point of monitoring and tracking all of the calls coming in and out of your business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could even add a couple extra hours in the day, right? And what if some of those when you're shutting off your PPC campaigns, what if some of those extra calls are not emergency calls and they could be scheduled out, right? It's a lost opportunity. You have to look at the money you're losing. If you have a set budget every single month on your PPC that you're going to spend $3,000 a month, right? Or $4,000 or $5,000 or $1,000 or whatever it is, that's your goal, and that's in your marketing budget, shutting your ad off is not saving you anything. All right. You're going to spend that budget doubled when you put it back on, right? It's just going to spend eventually more or less or not spend it at all. And that's, if you have allocated budget that you're not spending, you're losing business. So shutting off your ads is and this kind of went in a different direction, shutting off your ads. We could do a whole show. The only reason I brought it up is because it kind of tied into the call volume, the call recordings, and listening to calls and seeing the quality of the calls and shutting it off and then not seeing those calls. And this whole argument went back to why is business slow one week and hardcore another week? It could be a lot of reasons. And that's one of them, right? It's like shutting off your ads is like a no. It's not a good thing.
No, but at the end of the day, with better tracking and better data that's coming in through, that's managed within ConversionAMP, it allows us to make the better decisions and avoid those tactics of shutting off, because that's just a quick fix. At the end of the day, we don't need a bandage.
Yeah. True that. Great show. Great information. We went on a rant again. People hate when we rant, but that's okay. I like to rant. We're starting a new show called The Rant, where we're just it's all about shutting off your ads, right? We're going to talk 8 hours a day about shutting off your ads and why it's not a good idea. It's a joke. You didn't like that one, did you?
I mean, I think The Rant would be a little too much of a long show and would have too many long episodes going on and on about the same things. Client horror stories and people shutting off their ad accounts.
Don't shut up your ad accounts. You're losing business. Look at your calls. Monitor your calls. Listen to your calls. And the reason I say, well, how does listening to your calls have anything to do with shutting off your ads? Because if you're shutting off your ads, there's no calls coming in. Well, go back to that week, last week, where you got 100 calls and it was so busy that you're so booked this week, right? What kind of calls were they? Was it to do a water heater, tankless water heater installation? Not an emergency call, probably could be pushed out a few days. You know, depends on how you sell it in the front end. I bet you I can get in the door. Hey, no worries. We're a little busy right now. You know, we're a very popular company. We're doing really good work. All your clients, all your neighbors are using us. They love us. We'd love an opportunity to come out. We have a fantastic tankless water heater program that I'd love to show you. I'm not going to be able to be out there till Friday. Is that okay? Sure, it's not an emergency. The water's not falling all over the place. It's so much better than shutting off your ads. Because if you shut off your ads, you're saving $25 for that click, but you're losing $1,500 for that job, right? Jimmy's eyes are rolling right now, I'm sure. He's like, oh, I like shutting off ads. No, I'm just kidding. So don't shut off your ads. Next week's show, no, 2 weeks show from now, it's going to be shutting off your ads and why we think it's a good idea. So great show today, Rick. Unless you want to go a little longer, I don't have anything else to rant about. Do you?
No, we can cut the rant short this episode. Other than that, if you guys are in the Facebook group, I would recommend you guys put a few comments here to see what exactly you guys want us to talk about. If you have any other questions, if you guys are watching replay in YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That's over here on the side right here. And make sure that you check out the new show that's coming out in 2 weeks. Other than that, it was a pleasure here. Same time.
And also, when you're making those comments, if you hate us, put those comments there too. And we could just blame it on the last week's show.
Yeah. There you go.
Kidding.
Other than
this is dry humor at its best. That's the way I deliver it. Dry humor for plumbers. Get it? Water, dry, then. Okay. Yeah. We'll end it there. Have a great time. We'll see you in 2 weeks with the ConversionAMP Show.
Signing off.